They took one human life, so Earth made the Empire pay the ultimate price. Dr. Alan Carter looked out the viewport of the research vessel Horizon. Stars glittered against the black of space. He smiled to himself as he watched the blue-green planet of Velthria grow larger in the distance. After 5 years of study, he was finally going to meet the Velthrians in person. "Excited, Alan?" asked Captain Laura Daniels as she joined him at the viewport. "Very. This translation algorithm could change everything," Alan replied. He held up a small data chip. "If it works with Velthrian language patterns, it should work with any language in the galaxy." Laura nodded. "Just be careful. The Velthrians are part of the galactic hegemony, but they keep to themselves." "I know. That's why this meeting is so important." The Horizon was a small research vessel with a crew of only 35 humans. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for just 23 years. They were newcomers compared to species like the Velthrians, who had traveled the stars for over 1,000 years. Alan returned to his lab to prepare for the upcoming meeting. His translation algorithm was the result of a decade of work. It could analyze any language and create a perfect translation almost instantly. Other species in the galaxy had translation technology, but each worked only with known languages. Alan's algorithm could work with any language it encountered, even for the first time. A voice came over the ship's speakers. "Attention all crew. A Velthrian vessel is approaching. All personnel report to meeting stations." Alan carefully packed his equipment and headed to the diplomatic chamber. He met Dr. Maya Bennett, the ship's xenobiologist, in the hallway. "Ready for the big moment?" Maya asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," Alan replied. The diplomatic chamber was a large room designed for meetings with other species. Captain Daniels stood at the front, with Alan and 5 other crew members nearby. A soft hum announced the arrival of the Velthrian ship. "Remember," Captain Daniels said quietly, "this is a friendly exchange. The Velthrians have agreed to test Dr. Carter's translation algorithm." The door slid open. 4 Velthrians entered. They were tall, with gray-blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and black, without pupils. They wore ornate armor that gleamed under the ship's lights. The lead Velthrian stepped forward. "I am Commander Zoth Varric of the Velthrian Empire." His words came through a translation device on his chest. "We are here to inspect your research vessel and evaluate the human translation technology." Captain Daniels frowned slightly. "Commander, this was arranged as a collaborative meeting, not an inspection." Zoth Varric's eyes narrowed. "The terms have changed. The Velthrian Empire has concerns about human technology spreading through hegemony space." "Our technology poses no threat," Alan said, stepping forward. "The translation algorithm is designed to improve communication between species." "We will determine that," Zoth Varric said coldly. He gestured to the other Velthrians. "Secure the ship. I want all research data collected." Captain Daniels moved between the Velthrians and her crew. "This is a violation of hegemony law. You have no authority to seize our research." The Velthrians ignored her. 2 of them moved toward the ship's main computer terminal while the others began searching the crew. "Stop this immediately," Captain Daniels demanded. "I am contacting hegemony security forces." Zoth Varric moved with surprising speed. He grabbed Captain Daniels by the arm. "Your species is too new to understand galactic politics. The Velthrian Empire has special authority within the hegemony." Alan clutched his data chip tightly. "This is wrong. We came in peace." A Velthrian soldier approached. "Alan, surrender your research materials." "This algorithm belongs to Earth," Alan said, backing away. "It's not yours to take." The soldier reached for Alan, but he stepped back, bumping into a console. The data chip slipped from his fingers, falling to the floor. Alan quickly bent to retrieve it. "He's accessing restricted data," shouted Zoth Varric, pointing at the console Alan had touched. Before anyone could react, Zoth Varric drew a weapon and fired. A bright pulse of energy struck Alan in the chest. He fell to the floor, his eyes wide with shock. "No!" Maya screamed, rushing to Alan's side. But it was too late. The blast had stopped his heart instantly. Captain Daniels stared in horror. You murdered him. He attempted to access Velthrian cultural databases, Zoth Varric said calmly. That is a capital offense. That's a lie, Maya shouted. He was picking up his data chip. The security footage will show the truth, Zoth Varric replied. But it is irrelevant. Under hegemony law, we have jurisdiction in this matter. The other crew members were too stunned to move as the Velthrians continued their search. They found Alan's data chip and took it, along with several storage devices from the lab. This incident is regrettable but necessary, Zoth Varric said as his soldiers finished. The human was attempting to steal Velthrian secrets. You'll answer for this, Captain Daniel said, her voice shaking with anger. Earth will not stand for the murder of one of our scientists. Zoth Varric made a sound that might have been laughter. Your species is young. You don't understand your place yet. One human life means nothing in the grand scheme of the galaxy. The Velthrians left as suddenly as they had arrived, taking Alan's research with them. The crew of the Horizon gathered around their fallen colleague in shocked silence. Captain Daniels knelt beside Alan's body. Prepare a stasis chamber, she ordered, quietly. We're taking him home. She looked up at her crew, her eyes hard with determination. And we're bringing back evidence. The Velthrians will not get away with this. Unknown to the Velthrians, the Horizon's security systems had recorded everything. The footage clearly showed that Alan had not accessed any console. He had simply been picking up his fallen data chip when Zoth Varric shot him. The Horizon broke orbit immediately, racing back toward Earth space. As the blue-green planet of Velthria shrank behind them, Captain Daniel sent an urgent message to Earth Command. Human scientist murdered by Velthrian Empire, returning with evidence. Request immediate diplomatic response. 3 days later, the Horizon reached the nearest human outpost. The security footage was transmitted to Earth along with Captain Daniels's full report. Alan's body was prepared for the long journey home. On Earth, the news of Alan Carter's death spread quickly. People gathered in cities around the world, watching the security footage that showed his murder. The footage also revealed another crucial fact. The Velthrians had taken his translation algorithm, technology that rightfully belonged to humanity. In Washington, D.C., the Earth United Government convened an emergency session. Ambassador Susan Miller, Earth's representative to the Galactic Hegemony, delivered a grim report. The Velthrians claim jurisdiction under hegemony law and refuse to acknowledge any wrongdoing, she explained. They insist Dr. Carter was attempting to access restricted cultural data. But we have proof that's not what happened, said President Richard Keller. Yes, but the Hegemony Council is dominated by older species. They view us as newcomers with no real standing. President Keller looked around the room at the assembled leaders. Then we need to show them that humanity is not to be dismissed. For the first time since joining the galactic community, we face a stark truth. In the eyes of older species, human lives are expendable. He stood, his face resolute. We must prove them wrong. They took one human life. Now they will learn what that means. They took one human life, so Earth made the Empire. Pay the ultimate price. The Galactic Hegemony Council chamber was a vast, circular room. Representatives from over 200 species sat in rising tiers. Ambassador Susan Miller stood alone. At the center, a single human facing the ancient powers of the galaxy. The evidence is clear, Susan said, her voice steady. She gestured to the holographic display showing the security footage from the Horizon. Dr. Alan Carter was murdered while retrieving a dropped data chip. He did not access any Velthrian systems. The Velthrian representative, a tall figure in ornate armor, rose from his seat. The human is mistaken. Our investigation shows that Dr. Carter was attempting to access restricted cultural databases. Commander Zoth Varric acted according to our laws. This footage proves otherwise, Susan insisted. We demand justice for Dr. Carter. The Velthrian Empire must return his research and acknowledge their crime. The council leader, an ancient being from a species called the Morai, raised a hand for silence. Ambassador Miller, while this incident is unfortunate, the Velthrian Empire has jurisdiction in matters concerning their cultural security. This wasn't about cultural security, Susan argued. This was theft of human technology and the murder of a scientist. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Most of the representatives seemed uninterested. To them, humanity was still new to the galactic stage. One human life meant little compared to the complex politics of species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years. The Council has reviewed the evidence, the Morai leader announced. We find no reason to intervene in this matter. It falls under Velthrian jurisdiction. Susan looked around the chamber in disbelief. Is this the justice of the galactic hegemony? You allow the murder of an innocent scientist to go unpunished? This matter is closed, the Morai leader said firmly. The Council has more pressing concerns. Susan left the chamber with her head held high, but inside she felt sick. The message was clear. Human lives were not valued by the older species. As her shuttle returned to Earth, she prepared her report for the United Earth government. 2 days later, the government leaders gathered in the Great Hall in Washington, D.C. The mood was grim as Susan explained what had happened at the Council. They dismissed us, she concluded. The Velthrians have Dr. Carter's translation algorithm and they face no consequences for his murder. General William Hayes slammed his fist on the table. We should respond with military force. Show them that humans won't be pushed around. That would be suicide, said Admiral Frank Rogers. The Velthrian Empire has hundreds of worlds and thousands of warships. We have barely established colonies on Mars and Europa. President Richard Keller looked around the room. Options? Director Catherine Ross of Earth Intelligence Service stood up. Her gray hair was cut short, and her eyes were sharp with intelligence. The Velthrians believe we are weak because we value life, she said calmly. They don't understand that this is precisely why we are dangerous. Explain, President Keller said. Military action would fail, Catherine said, but we have other options. She activated a display showing various Velthrian worlds and installations. They took something from us, we can take something from them. What do you propose? Asked the president. The Velthrians stole our translation algorithm. Let's show them what other technology Earth has developed. Catherine's voice was cool and determined. We have nanomachines that can infiltrate any system, biological agents that can target specific species, AI systems that can outsmart any security network. The room fell silent as Catherine continued. We've kept these technologies to ourselves because we understood their power. Now we use them. You're talking about sabotage, General Hayes said. I'm talking about justice, Catherine corrected. The Velthrians need to learn that taking one human life has consequences. President Keller leaned forward. You're not suggesting we kill Velthrians in return? No, Catherine said firmly. We are better than that. We don't target their people. We target their infrastructure, their economy, their military capabilities. We make them feel pain without taking lives. The president considered this for a long moment. How would this work? First, we act like we've accepted defeat, Catherine explained. We withdraw our diplomats, recall our military vessels. To the galaxy, it will look like we're retreating. And then? Asked Susan. Then we deploy specialized teams throughout Velthrian space. Small groups with specific targets. No direct attacks. Nothing that can be traced back to Earth. Catherine displayed a map of key Velthrian installations. Within 6 months, the Velthrian Empire will understand what it means to anger humanity. The discussion lasted for hours. Some argued for a more direct approach. Others worried about escalation. In the end, President Keller made his decision. We proceed with Director Ross's plan, he announced. The galaxy needs to learn that humanity will not tolerate the unjust taking of even one human life. But we will show restraint. We will not become killers like them. Over the next few weeks, Earth quietly withdrew its diplomatic missions from hegemony space. Military vessels returned to the solar system. To the galactic community, it seemed that humanity had accepted its place as a minor power. The Velthrian Empire celebrated its victory. Commander Zoth Varric was promoted to Overseer of Human Affairs, a new position created to monitor the primitive species that had dared to challenge Velthrian authority. On Earth, preparations moved forward. Specialized teams were assembled. Captain Eric Martinez, a former Special Forces officer, was selected to lead the operations in Velthrian space. His team included engineers, biologists, and computer scientists. "Your mission is not destruction," Director Ross told them during their final briefing. "Your mission is education. The Velthrians must learn that humanity is not to be trifled with." Lieutenant Lisa Chen, a brilliant computer scientist, led the cyber division. Her team developed viruses and AI infiltration systems designed to penetrate Velthrian networks. "We've analyzed their security protocols," Lisa explained during a planning session. "They're advanced, but they've never faced Earth's AI systems." Meanwhile, Dr. Maya Bennett, who had witnessed Alan Carter's murder on the horizon, joined the biological team. She helped develop nanomachines that could target Velthrian technology and agriculture without harming any living beings. "Alan would have wanted justice, not vengeance," she said as she worked. "This is the human way." 6 months after Dr. Carter's death, the Earth strike teams were in position. They operated from small, stealthy vessels on the edges of Velthrian space. Their equipment was ready. Their targets were identified. Captain Martinez received the final authorization from Earth Command. He gathered his team for a brief message before they began. "Remember why we're here," he told them. "They took one human life. Now we show them the price." They took one human life. So Earth made the Empire pay the ultimate price. The Velthrian shipyard at Dorthos was the pride of the Empire. Massive construction platforms floated in space, building the warships that maintained Velthrian power throughout their territory. Chief Engineer Drav Malik supervised the final assembly of a new battlecruiser, the largest vessel ever built by the Empire. "Power up the main reactor," Drav Malik ordered. "Begin testing sequences." Workers moved carefully around the huge reactor core. The technology was advanced, capable of powering the massive warship for decades without refueling. As the startup sequence began, a technician noticed something unusual on his monitor. "Sir, I'm detecting anomalies in the reactor shielding," he reported. Drav Malik frowned. "Run a diagnostic." "Diagnostics show all systems normal, but..." The technician looked confused. "The readings don't match what I'm seeing." Drav Malik pushed him aside to check the readings himself. Everything appeared normal according to the computer, but his experienced eyes saw the problem immediately. The reactor's containment field was fluctuating. "Shut it down," he shouted. "Emergency protocols." It was too late. The containment field failed completely. The reactor core destabilized in seconds. A blinding flash of energy tore through the shipyard. 3 nearly completed warships and the main construction platform were vaporized instantly. Thousands of Velthrian workers died before they could even understand what was happening. Far away on the edge of Velthrian space, Captain Eric Martinez received the encrypted message from Earth. "Operation Consequence, Phase 1 complete." "It started," he told his team. "No going back now." Lieutenant Lisa Chen sat in a small apartment on Earth. Her fingers moved quickly over her computer interface as she directed a network of advanced AI systems. The AIs had infiltrated Velthrian networks across their empire, gathering intelligence and waiting for activation commands. "Phase 2. Beginning?" she said into her communicator. The AI systems activated simultaneously, targeting Velthrian agricultural systems on the colony world of Neris. On Neris, the automated farming systems suddenly changed their soil treatment protocols. Instead of suppressing certain bacteria, they began to encourage them. The bacteria were harmless to most life forms, but had evolved to consume the specific nutrients needed by Velthrian food crops. Within days, crops began to fail. Soil analysis showed nothing unusual to Velthrian scanners. Their scientists were baffled by the sudden change in soil chemistry. Emergency food supplies were sent from other colonies, but the problem spread as the bacteria multiplied. Dr. Maya Bennett monitored the situation from her laboratory. "The bacteria are working as designed," she reported. "Crop yields on Neris have dropped by 70%. No harm to any native species or ecosystems." Director Catherine Ross nodded with satisfaction. "And the nanomachines?" Deployed and active in the Velthrian capital systems, Maya confirmed. They're completely undetectable by Velthrian technology. On Velthrian Prime, the Imperial capital, things began to go wrong. Communication systems experienced random failures. Financial data became corrupted. Transportation networks malfunctioned, causing delays and confusion. Imperial technicians worked frantically to fix the problems, but they couldn't find the cause. The nanomachines were too small to detect and programmed to avoid harming any living beings. They simply disrupted electronic systems in ways that seemed like natural failures. Overseer Zoth Varek, now responsible for all human affairs, grew increasingly frustrated. He called an emergency meeting with the Imperial Security Council. These failures are too coordinated to be accidents, he insisted. We are under attack. By whom? Asked a council member. We've detected no enemy ships or weapons. The humans, Zoth Varek said darkly. They've been too quiet since we took their scientists' research. The other council members laughed. The humans? They have no significant military. They withdrew from hegemony space months ago. They are more dangerous than we thought, Zoth Varek insisted. Increase security at all Imperial facilities. His warnings were ignored. The Empire had faced no direct attacks. No weapons had been fired. No enemy had been detected. The Council dismissed Zoth Varek's concerns as paranoia. Meanwhile, small teams of human operatives moved carefully through Velthrian space. They traveled on commercial vessels or in small ships with false identification. Each team had specific targets and specialized equipment. One team infiltrated the Velthrian Military Academy on Dorthos II. They released nanomachines that targeted the Academy's training simulations, subtly altering the combat data. Future Velthrian officers would be trained with flawed tactical information, making their ships and troops less effective in real combat. Another team visited a major spaceport on Velthros. They released engineered microbes into the air circulation system. The microbes would attach to ship hulls and slowly degrade the specialized metals used in Velthrian warp drives. None of these actions would cause immediate harm. There would be no explosions, no casualties. The effects would build slowly over time, causing confusion and fear rather than outrage. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Lisa Chen made an important discovery. I found him, she told Director Ross. The Velthrian who killed Dr. Carter. Zoth Varek, Director Ross said. He's been promoted to Overseer of Human Affairs. Yes, he's currently on Velthrian Prime, coordinating their response to our operations. Lisa smiled grimly. They don't know what's happening, but they know something is wrong. Good. It's time for Phase 3, Director Ross decided. Captain Martinez, prepare your team. In his small stealth vessel, Captain Martinez received the new orders. His ship had been hiding in the debris field of an abandoned mining operation near Velthrian Prime. Now they would move closer to the heart of the Empire. We're going to deliver a message, he told his team. The Velthrians need to understand that their actions have consequences. The stealth vessel slipped past Velthrian security systems with ease. Earth's cloaking technology was far more advanced than the Empire realized. They reached the orbit of Velthrian Prime undetected. From the ship, they launched thousands of tiny drones, each no larger than an insect. The drones carried no weapons. Instead, they were programmed to display a simple holographic message in the Velthrian language. The message would appear on screens throughout the Imperial capital. Justice for Dr. Alan Carter. The Empire's proud leaders would soon understand that they were not dealing with a primitive species that could be dismissed or bullied. They were facing a force they had never imagined. As Phase 3 began, news reached Earth of another success. The translation algorithm stolen from Dr. Carter had been quietly corrupted by nanomachines. When the Velthrians attempted to use it for diplomatic communications with other species, it produced subtle but critical errors. Several important trade agreements had already been compromised. We're not just hurting their economy and military, Director Ross observed. We're damaging their standing in the hegemony. President Keller nodded with grim satisfaction. They took one human life. Now they will understand what that means. They took one human life, So Earth made the Empire pay the ultimate price. Emperor Thalax of the Velthrian Empire was not used to feeling fear. For 300 years, he had ruled the most powerful empire in this sector of the galaxy. Now, as he looked at the reports from across his territories, fear crept into his mind. "How is this possible?" he demanded, throwing the reports onto the table. "Our shipyards destroyed, food shortages on 6 worlds, communication systems failing across the empire." His advisors stood silently, afraid to speak. Finally, Intelligence Chief Dozmarek stepped forward. "Emperor, we have detected something unusual," he said carefully. "Microscopic machines in our systems. They appear to be Earth-made." "Earth?" Emperor Thalax's voice rose in anger. "The humans? They did this?" "We believe so, Emperor. We've also found evidence of biological agents in our agricultural colonies. They target only our food, crops, nothing else." Emperor Thalax stood and walked to the large window overlooking the capital city. In the distance, he could see the holographic message that had appeared on screens and buildings throughout the city. "Justice for Dr. Alan Carter." "One human scientist," the Emperor said quietly. "We took one human life." "A regrettable incident." "Emperor," said Overseer Zothvarek, who had been summoned to the meeting, "but necessary to secure the translation technology." "And has this technology been useful to us?" the Emperor asked coldly. Zothvarek looked down. "There have been problems with its implementation. Several diplomatic incidents have occurred due to translation errors, so we gained nothing," Emperor Thalax said. "And in return, the humans have brought my empire to the edge of collapse without firing a single shot." No one spoke. The evidence was clear. Food shortages were growing worse. Military systems were failing. The economy was in chaos as financial data became corrupted. And still, no human ships had entered Velthrian space. No weapons had been fired. "Contact Earth," Emperor Thalax ordered suddenly. "Offer reparations for the scientist's death. Tell them we will return their technology." "Emperor, we cannot show weakness to such a primitive species," Zothvarek protested. Emperor Thalax turned to him, eyes cold. "Primitive? They have brought us to our knees without a direct confrontation. They are far more advanced than we realized." He looked at his other advisors. "Send the message immediately." 3 days later, the Emperor received Earth's response. It was simple and direct. A single human representative would arrive to discuss terms. The meeting would take place on a neutral space station under hegemony observation. "I will attend this meeting myself," Emperor Thalax decided. "No, Emperor," Intelligence Chief Dozmarek advised. "Send Overseer Zothvarek. He was responsible for the human scientist's death. Let him face the consequences." Emperor Thalax considered this, then nodded. "Agreed. Zothvarek will represent the Empire." Overseer Zothvarek tried to hide his fear as he prepared for the meeting. He had dismissed the humans as weak when he killed their scientist. Now he understood how wrong he had been. The neutral space station was a small hegemony outpost at the edge of Velthrian space. Zothvarek arrived with a small security team, though he knew they would be useless if the humans decided to attack. "The human representative has arrived," a station officer informed him. "He is alone and unarmed." Zothvarek entered the meeting room. A middle-aged human man in a simple gray suit sat at the table. He looked ordinary, not like a powerful diplomat or warrior. "I am Overseer Zothvarek, representative of the Velthrian Empire," he announced formally. "My name is Paul Wilson," the human said calmly. "I am Dr. Alan Carter's brother-in-law." Zothvarek felt a chill. This was not a government official. This was family of the man he had killed. "I offer condolences for your loss," Zothvarek said stiffly. Paul Wilson studied him for a moment. "You killed Alan because you wanted his translation algorithm. You thought you could take what you wanted without consequences." "It was a matter of imperial security," Zothvarek began, but Paul cut him off. "I'm not here to listen to excuses." I'm here to explain what happens next. Paul opened a small device that projected images of various Velthrian worlds. For the past year, Earth has demonstrated what happens when you take even one human life unjustly. The images showed the destruction at the shipyard, the failed crops on Neris, the chaos in the capital city. We could have engineered plagues that would have wiped out your species, Paul said matter-of-factly. Instead, we showed restraint. We targeted your infrastructure, not your people. Why? Zothvarek asked. Why not just attack us directly? Because that's not who we are, Paul replied. Humans value life. All life, not just our own. We wanted justice, not genocide. Zothvarek struggled to understand this concept. In Velthrian culture, enemies were to be destroyed completely. Now here are our terms, Paul continued. He listed 5 demands. Acknowledgement of responsibility for Dr. Carter's unlawful execution. Withdrawal of all Velthrian military from human systems. Zothvarek and those involved to stand trial under human justice. Contribution to a galactic scientific fund named after Dr. Carter. And sponsorship of a new galactic charter of sentient rights. These terms are... Zothvarek hesitated, searching for the right word. Unexpected. You thought we would demand territory, resources? Paul shook his head. We want justice and a safer galaxy for all species. That's the human way. And if we refuse? Paul's expression hardened. What you've experienced so far is only a small demonstration of Earth's capabilities. We've held back out of respect for innocent Velthrian lives. The threat was clear. Zothvarek knew the Empire could not withstand further attacks. Their military was crippled, their economy in ruins, and still, most Velthrians did not understand what was happening or why. I will convey these terms to Emperor Thalax, Zothvarek said formally. You have 3 days to respond, Paul said, standing. After that, we continue. As Paul Wilson left the meeting room, Zothvarek remained seated, struggling with new emotions. For the first time in his life, he felt shame for killing another being. The humans had shown they could have destroyed him, destroyed the Empire. Instead, they sought something greater than revenge. Emperor Thalax received Zothvarek's report with grim acceptance. The ruling council debated through the night, with many arguing against surrendering to human demands. But as reports continued to arrive detailing new failures across the Empire, the decision became clear. We accept their terms, Emperor Thalax announced finally. Send word to Earth. The Velthrian Empire acknowledges its error and seeks peace. 2 days later, Ambassador Susan Miller stood before the Galactic Hegemony Council once more. This time, she was not alone. Emperor Thalax himself stood beside her, along with representatives from a dozen other major powers. The Velthrian Empire accepts responsibility for the unlawful execution of Dr. Alan Carter, Emperor Thalax announced to the stunned council. We will sponsor a new galactic charter of sentient rights, establishing that the deliberate taking of any sentient life, regardless of species, is a violation of universal law. The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The proud Velthrian Empire surrendering to human demands. It was unprecedented. Ambassador Miller stepped forward. Earth does not seek vengeance, she said clearly. We seek justice and a safer galaxy for all. That is the human way. They took one human life, so Earth made the Empire. Pay the ultimate price news of the Velthrian Empire's surrender to Earth spread quickly through the galaxy. Species that had ignored or dismissed humanity now paid close attention. If humans could bring the mighty Velthrian Empire to its knees without firing a shot, what else were they capable of? The Galactic Hegemony Council called an emergency session as representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness the signing of the new Galactic Charter of Sentient Rights. The grand chamber was filled beyond capacity, with many standing. Along the walls, Ambassador Susan Miller stepped onto the central platform. Beside her stood Emperor Thalax of the Velthrian Empire. Behind them were representatives from 20 other major powers who had agreed to co-sponsor the charter. This is a historic day, Susan began. not just for Earth and the Velthrian Empire, but for all sentient beings in our galaxy. The council leader, the ancient Mirai who had dismissed Earth's complaint a year earlier, watched with newfound respect. Ambassador Miller, please present the charter to the council. Susan activated a holographic display that showed the text of the charter in multiple languages. The charter is simple. It establishes that the deliberate taking of any sentient life, regardless of species, age, or origin, is a violation of universal law. No political, military, or cultural justification can override this principle. Emperor Thalak stepped forward. The Velthrian Empire supports this charter fully. We have learned at great cost that all life deserves respect and protection. One by one, representatives from other powers expressed their support. Some did so, eagerly, having long advocated for such principles. Others did so more reluctantly, aware that opposing humanity might be dangerous after seeing what happened to the Velthrians. The council voted overwhelmingly to adopt the charter. From that day forward, the deliberate taking of sentient life would be recognized as a crime throughout hegemony space, punishable by sanctions against individuals, organizations, or even entire governments. On Earth, Dr. Carter's widow, Michelle, watched the proceedings from the United Earth Government headquarters in Washington, D.C. Her eyes were wet with tears, but her face showed pride rather than sorrow. Alan would have been so proud, she said quietly to President Keller, who sat beside her. This is exactly what he believed in. His translation algorithm was meant to bring species together, to help them understand each other. And now it will, President Keller replied. The Velthrians have returned the algorithm along with all of Alan's research. We'll complete his work and share it with the galaxy. In another room, Director Catherine Ross met with her team. The Psi operations against the Velthrian Empire had been a complete success, but now came the difficult part. We need to remove all of our nanomachines and biological agents from Velthrian space, she instructed. They've met our terms. We keep our word. Captain Eric Martinez and his team had already begun the process. The same stealth ships that had deployed Earth's weapons now worked to remove them. Special signals activated self-destruct sequences in the nanomachines. Neutralizing agents were released to stop the engineered bacteria. Within weeks, Velthrian systems would begin to recover. Lieutenant Lisa Chen reported on the cyber operations. We've removed our AI systems from their networks. Their systems are starting to stabilize. And what about Overseer Zoth Varek? Director, Ross asked. He arrived on Earth yesterday, Lisa replied. He will stand trial next month for the murder of Dr. Carter. The trial of Zoth Varek was broadcast throughout the galaxy. The Velthrian officer stood tall in the Earth courtroom, facing a jury of 12 humans. The evidence was presented clearly. Security footage from the horizon, testimony from the crew, and Zoth Varek's own admission of guilt. I acted according to Velthrian customs, Zoth Varek explained to the court. I believed the human was attempting to access restricted data. I now understand I was wrong. The jury found him guilty of murder. Many in the galaxy expected a severe punishment, perhaps even execution, but when the judge announced the sentence, it surprised everyone. Overseer Zoth Varek, you are sentenced to 10 years of service at the Alan Carter Institute for Interspecies Communication. You will work alongside human scientists to develop better understanding between our peoples. Zoth Varek bowed his head in acceptance. It was not the punishment he had expected, but he understood its purpose. The humans were teaching him, and the galaxy, another lesson about their values. 1 month later, the Alan Carter Institute opened its doors on a neutral planet at the edge of Earth space. Scientists from dozens of species arrived to work together on Dr. Carter's translation algorithm and other technologies designed to improve interspecies communication. Michelle Carter cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony. She had been appointed director of the institute, continuing her husband's work. Beside her stood Paul Wilson, who had delivered Earth's terms to the Velthrians. My husband believed that understanding was the key to peace, Michelle told the assembled scientists. When we truly understand each other, violence becomes unnecessary. Among the scientists was Zoth Varek, now dressed in simple civilian clothes rather than his imperial uniform. He approached Michelle cautiously. I cannot undo what I did, he said quietly. But I will spend my life working to ensure it never happens again. Michelle studied him for a moment, then nodded. That's all anyone can ask. Over the following years, the Velthrian Empire changed. Under Emperor Thalax's leadership, they reformed their military and diplomatic practices. Younger Velthrians, influenced by human ideas, began to question the old ways of their society. Earth's status in the galactic community was forever altered. Humanity was no longer viewed as the upstart species to be dismissed or exploited. They had demonstrated both incredible technological prowess and remarkable restraint. When a minor species was threatened by a larger power, they would often request human mediation. When difficult ethical questions arose in the Hegemony Council, human perspectives were sought out. Earth became known not just for its power, but for its principles. They took one human life, became a whispered phrase throughout the stars, a warning to those who might underestimate humanity or treat them unjustly. The phrase had a second part, rarely spoken aloud, but understood by all. And Earth made them pay the ultimate price: change. Dr. Alan Carter's legacy lived on, not just in the translation algorithm he had developed, but in the new understanding that spread throughout the galaxy. His death had led not to more violence, but to a fundamental shift in how sentient beings viewed each other. In the end, humanity had taught the galaxy its most important lesson. The value of a single life was immeasurable, and those who failed to understand this did so at their peril.